We all want some level of safety and security. Firefighters, construction workers, EMT. They're all there when you need them to help manage life's chaos. In retirement, you want that same level of safety, but who is there for you to make sure your money will last? Brian isn't just there in case of emergency. He's there so you don't have an emergency with your money. A safer retirement doesn't mean a boring retirement, but a prepared one, full of the things that inspire you. This is Safer Retirement Radio with Brian J. Decker.
Welcome to Safer Retirement Radio with Brian J. Decker and Arrin Wray of Decker Retirement Planning. I'm Mark Kelly. Glad you're with us today. We talk retirement because that's what Brian and Arrin and the team at Decker Retirement Planning are all about. It's deckerretirementplanning.com if you'd like to learn more. You also can go there to find out about events that are upcoming, where the offices are, a lot of great information on the website. Find out more about Brian, Arrin, and the team. But you can also go there, and we say this every week on the program, under the heading of Safer Retirement Education, 12 different things you can download. There's some useful guides, there's books, including Brian's book on retirement, the Decker Approach book. A lot of information there. It's just there for your information. You want to grab it, grab it. Take whatever you'd like. You want to learn more about retirement, different areas, there's 12 different things you can download right there on the website, deckerretirementplanning.com, right under the heading of Safer Retirement Education. I'm Mark Kelly. Glad you're with us. If Arrin and Brian are talking about something you want to learn more about, you can always call them. Boy, and most people are not really 100% sure of where they are when it comes to retirement. I think I've got enough. I hope we've got enough. I wonder if we're going to be okay. I wonder if we can retire. 833-707-3030 is the number. No cost to chat with the team at Decker Retirement. 833-707-3030. It's a great opportunity, I think, to get some clarity into your retirement picture. 833-707-3030. And today, Brian and Arrin are going to talk about 3 ways to help you get the most out of your retirement. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Mark. 3 ways. It's got to start with having a plan. I can't imagine anyone starting a business without a plan. I can't imagine them going on a hike without a plan. I can't imagine them taking a long drive and vacation without a plan. But Arrin, a lot of people think that they can retire without a plan. It boggles my mind. In 39 years of doing this, I just cannot believe that so many people think that they can go into retirement without a plan. However, of the banker brokers that are out there that are advisors, they tell their clients that their plan is a pie chart. Will you speak to the radio audience and talk about having a plan, importance of having a plan, and why a pie chart is not a plan?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of kind of the context that we provide people, just to help them understand that what they've done to get them to where they are now is not the same thing that they need moving forward. And so to hit your first point there, Brian, that's one of the big things for me as well, that moving into retirement, sometimes people just decide on a retire date, they hit that date, they retire, and then they just kind of wing it moving forward. They're like, oh, well, we've spent about this much in monthly expenses or yearly expenses, and I think we'll be okay. We have a big pot of money. We're just going to start pulling from that, and hopefully it lasts us until the point in time that we pass away. Now, personally, that would scare me to death, not really having a surety or any kind of data points or metrics around that you are actually going to be okay. I would never be able to retire and take that same approach. And so that's really one of the big things that we do, is give people, with our math-based approach, the peace of mind and the comfort of knowing that they actually have a plan that they can rely on. Now, the pie chart that you mentioned is what most people do for their investment strategy during their working career, during the 30, 40 years that they are working, saving, adding money into the 401k, the IRA, the other retirement accounts. And then they get to retirement, and because they've read it on the internet or their accumulation advisor has told them so, they feel like that investment strategy is going to carry them through retirement. Now, Brian and I are here to tell you that it is not going to. There are some major flaws with using the pie chart approach, the accumulation strategies, as what we call your distribution plan, fancy term for rationale or reasoning for how you're actually going to pull money out of your accounts. Now, the big reasons why the pie chart approach doesn't work in retirement are, number one, you have a different time horizon. When you're 20, 30, 40 years old and you have a big swing in the market, say a 2008 market's down 40%, yeah, it doesn't feel great, but it's not the end of the world because you have such a long time horizon to recover, have the market rebound, and you'll know 10, 20, 30 years down the road that was actually a really good buying opportunity for you. If you have that same market drop, that same 40% drop when you are 70, 80 years old, that's a very different story. You don't have the same amount of time to be able to recover from that. And the second part to this is that you are actually pulling money out of those accounts to spend as income versus adding to them like you do from your 401k contributions every couple of weeks during your working career. So having a different time horizon, actually spending the money versus adding to it are two of the main reasons why that pie chart approach, that accumulation approach, isn't going to work in retirement. Brian, anything you'd add to that before we continue?
Oh, just step back, big picture. We always have to kind of tee it up to give context to the radio audience that in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, markets go down, I don't know, 30, 40%, no big deal because your income's coming from work. And every 2 weeks, you're kicking new money into the 401k, especially when it's down. And then you've got the 3 to 5 years for the markets to recover. You're actually better off. But once you retire, once you're 65 plus and that portfolio is paying your bills, providing income for your golden years of retirement, you take that portfolio and that's down 30, 40, 50%. And that is a different story. Many people had to go back to work. We'll talk more about that. Sequence of returns risk is something that we'll talk about today on the radio show. But no, I think you covered the plan. I think that having a plan is very important. Let's talk about specifics of our plan. If we're a math-based firm, and we are, and we're fiduciaries, and we are, then we help our clients find out how much money they can draw. Now, before we talk about the details of the plan, Arrin, I want to have you describe it so that radio listeners can picture it. But before we do that, I just want to say that a lot of people, the number one fear of people 65 and older in the United States is running out of money before they die. And the reason is because they're looking at a pie chart and they're grossly underperforming what they could draw out of their portfolio because they're worried about tanking their retirement. So they're ultra cautious and they're underdrawing from their assets because they don't want to run out. Yeah. What we use in distribution planning is something called a distribution plan. And the point that I wanted to make for accumulation planning in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, those rules that get you. And by the way, the banker, broker, advisor, they're trained very well on accumulation planning to get you to retirement. They're very good at it. But the tools to accumulate what you've got are not the tools that you use in retirement. In fact, say the same thing another way. If you use accumulation planning tools in your retirement, that will hurt you. But Arrin, let's take these one at a time. Describe for the radio audience as picture perfectly as you can what the distribution planning plan looks like and how our clients use it and why they like it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just to add on one piece that you mentioned there, Brian, and kind of a segue into this, that you want the plan to be tailored to you specifically, but you also want it to be optimized. So to your point, because a lot of people are so fearful about running out of money and don't want to be on the wrong side of that coin flip, they very much underspend relative to the assets that they could be using. I mean, for the majority of people, you work, you save. The entire point of working and building up those assets is to eventually use them. Now, there are some people that have a focus on charity, legacy, inheritance, those types of things. And that's a very important part of what we do as well. But for the clients that are focused on maximizing their own spending, we want to make sure to actually do that. Now, again, we want to do it in a conservative manner where they are not going to run out of money before they pass away. but we also want them to be able to enjoy all of that hard work that they put in of building up those assets. So we have people all the time that come in that are spending X amount because they want to be conservative. They're kind of just guessing and hoping for the best. We run our math-based plan for them and show them, hey, you can have this plus X on top of that and still be conservative. And they're ecstatic because the goal for them was to be able to enjoy that, doing the travel, buying stuff for grandkids, getting a second house, whatever the goal may be, and showing them that they can have that through the numbers, through the math that we put together, really helps them have that comfort and peace of mind that they can spend more than they have been. So the way that we put together our plans is designed to be able to answer a few different questions for the clients that we work with. The first one is, can we retire? So for people that are yet to retire, that are still working, trying to figure out when that point in time in the future would be, we want to help them figure out, is that now? Is that 5 years from now? Sometime in between? Really help hone in on that specific date. The second one is, how much income can I spend every year? So again, circling back to our math-based approach, we want to show you by the numbers exactly how much income you can spend every year so that you know what to plan on. And then the third question is, how do we build in all of the other pieces that are going to be impactful? So this includes things like tax planning, estate planning, insurance planning. We want to make sure that as we put together this holistic plan for you, there aren't any pieces that we're missing. So in contrast to what you may have done either on your own or with a separate advisor, where the focus is almost exclusively on the investment portion of the investment strategy of the plan there, investments are still important in the plans that we put together, the distribution plans, but there are a number of other categories that become paramount when you transition from your working years into your retirement years. Income planning is a major one. The tax planning, the estate planning, all of those other things are very, very important to make sure that they work cohesively together so you aren't missing any of those pieces as you put together a plan that's intended to last you for the remainder of your life. So essentially what our plans do is they take first all of the assets that you have. So this is going to be your retirement accounts, the cash that you have in the bank, your IRAs, Roth accounts, any kind of liquid or cash type assets. And we also want to include everything that's specific to you from an income stream standpoint. So Social Security is going to be applicable. You may have a pension, you might have rental income, you might have wages for a little while. There's going to be other sources of income. And whether or not we directly manage those, we want to include them on the plan to make sure that you can see a complete picture of your financial situation. So we have all of those outside income streams listed on the plan. And then we take your cash assets, those retirement accounts, and help you figure out the optimized way to invest those specific funds.
Before you go into the portfolio side, Arrin, I just want our radio listeners to know rental income streams are shown, pension income streams are shown, Social Security income streams are shown, portfolio income streams are shown, and we total them up as gross income minus taxes. That gives annual and monthly income with a COLA, cost of living adjustment, to age 100. We don't think everyone's going to live to age 100, but we want to make sure our clients have their money outlive them. But just before we get into the actual portfolio, anything else you'd say on the income stream portion of the plan?
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is that we want to put this together in kind of a split approach where we have a large section of the plan that outlines all of the income, where it's coming from, the totals, like you said, the gross, taxes, and net. And then the second section, kind of the other half of the plan, specifies where all of the money is actually invested. So you can see a breakdown of the different categories those funds are held within, what their specific purpose is, when they're going to be used as income, or whatever the other purpose for those funds is. And so it's a dual approach of showing you both all of the income and all of the investments and allocations that will make up that income picture and the totality of the specific investments that you have.
So today, Arrin and Brian are talking about 3 ways to help you get the most out of your retirement. And really, it starts with income. You've got to replace the paychecks that are no longer coming in because you're retired. So where's your income going to come from? How much is it? How much of it is guaranteed? How much of it is what if, right? And so the portfolio is really important in how it's set up. Everybody's situation is unique. That's how Brian, Arrin, and the team at Decker Retirement look at it. It's about whomever they're sitting down with. How can they help them feel more comfortable, more confident with their retirement? If you would like to sit down, you have questions, you have some concerns. Boy, I think we've got enough. I don't know, though. I would love to find out. Well, take advantage. There's no cost to chat with the team at Decker Retirement. It is 833-707-3030. Might be one of the more important phone calls you make because we're talking about the next 20, 30 plus years of your life. 833-707-3030. You can't retire without income. Where's it going to come from? 833-707-3030. How much do you need? Everybody's situation is unique. 833-707-3030. Back with more of Safer Retirement Radio with Brian J. Decker and Arrin Wray of Decker Retirement Planning. Back right after this.
Your story is unique, and so is the legacy you leave behind. Connect with Brian Decker at 833-707-3030 to start writing the chapters of your legacy and ensure it reflects your values and dreams.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With near record inflation and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will America's future look like? What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? For more than 3 decades, Brian Decker has seen uncertainty come and go. No matter what the future holds, Brian and the team at Decker Retirement can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 833-707-3030 now to meet with Brian Decker and the Decker Retirement Team. If uncertainty is causing you to feel insecure, Brian Decker can help. Call 833-707-3030 and schedule your visit today. 833-707-3030. Investment advisory and insurance services offered through Decker Retirement Planning, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
You're listening to Safer Retirement Radio. If you like what you hear on today's show or have questions, drop by DeckerRetirementPlanning.com or call 833-707-3030 to talk to Brian.
Welcome back to Safer Retirement Radio. I'm Mark Elliott alongside Brian J. Decker and Arrin Wray of Decker Retirement Planning. Any questions you have? They're talking about 3 ways to help you get the most out of your retirement. You want to sit down with the team and talk about your specific situation? 833-707-3030. No cost to chat with the team. 833-707-3030. All right, Brian, you guys continue. You've got a great conversation going on. You're talking about using an income plan, not a pie chart. It's a whole different animal.
Right. So, Arrin, once we have the income streams mapped out, we show income from Social Security, we show income from rental, real estate, we show income from pensions. Those are what they are. But then when we add in portfolio income, income from their assets that they've saved all of their adult life, we get what we call a max income plan. Arrin, you've been doing this for a lot of years now. How surprised are people when they see version 1 of their plan?
Oh, it's almost always. It's one of my favorite parts of the planning process that we do because the high majority of the time, the income that they are able to spend is higher than they would have expected it to be or higher than they're currently spending. And so that's obviously a positive conversation right there, right? If you spend $10,000 a month and you can have 14 or 15, I mean, there's always ways to be able to use excess income or gift it to charity or kids or whatever else. So that's one of my favorite parts of the conversation.
Okay. And what are the things that we do to help people stay in different tax brackets? For example, if we find out that they're bumping up against the 32% bracket, that's a big jump from 24. Or if they're in the 12% bracket and don't want to go up to 22, what are some of the things that we can do for income planning and tax planning with that distribution plan?
Yep, there's a number of things here. So like you mentioned, with the income streams that are coming from those outside sources, the Social Security, pension, rental income, by and large, it is what it is. And so those are kind of set and we work around those with the things that we do have control over. So the first is just going to be how much income is withdrawn out of those retirement accounts or other accounts year over year or month over month. Where if clients are up against a specific deadline, maybe you sold, I don't know, maybe you sold a rental property or had a partial year of wages before you retired, or some other incident where you're like, hey, we really need to manage the amount of taxable income that we're withdrawing out of the IRAs or 401ks this year to make sure that we don't push ourselves up into that next tax bracket. And so that's the beauty of the distribution plan that we have, is that we have a lot of control and a lot of visibility into the options there. So the first would just be around how much taxable income we're pulling out of those sources. So that kind of leads itself into controlling the actual tax type of the accounts as well, where most of the clients that we work with have all three tax types. They're going to have some pre-tax money in IRAs or 401ks. They're going to have some post-tax money in Roth IRAs. And they're also going to have some non-qualified or after-tax money that they have access to. So again, if a current client is trying to figure out, hey, I want to spend some income this year, but I don't want to increase my taxable income based off of XYZ reason, we have the ability to pull more or all of that additional income out of those non-qualified funds or the Roth funds to be able to manage that tax burden for that specific time period. So it gives us a lot of flexibility around managing that over time, or again, for those one-time things, selling a house, getting a lump sum pension, whatever it may be. If there's additional tax things coming about that are more one-time scenarios, we can help with the management of those as well. Anything you'd add on that before I jump into the actual management over time, over the years?
Yeah. Before we hit that, talk about IRMA. A lot of our clients turn 65, they take Medicare, and now we've got not tax brackets to worry about, but we've got Medicare levels to make sure that we are knowledgeable about with our clients.
Yep. Yeah. And this is one that, obviously clients haven't dealt with before, right? You don't get on Medicare until the point in time that you hit 65 or later if you're still working. And it is kind of a unfamiliar area. And so the brackets that you have there are income-based, taxable income-based, and that determines what the monthly premium you will pay for the Medicare benefits will be. So the brackets are kind of funky. They don't actually line up with tax brackets. They kind of are just brackets on their own. So for example, for this year in 2024, if your taxable income in 2022, it's actually a 2-year look back, another strange thing about them. So they look back 2 years and say, hey, 2 years ago, what was your taxable income? If it was $206,000 or less as a married filing jointly couple, or $103,000 or less as an individual filer, you're going to pay about $175 a month for the Part B, the medical insurance costs for Medicare. And then from there, they have small tranches that go up from there. So for married filing jointly couples, it's 206 to 258, 258 to 322, and then they have 3 more tranches above that. And each of those increased tranches has a little bit higher Medicare premium that you will pay for having a higher taxable income. So that's also something that we look at when managing that taxable income burden over time, especially if people are looking at doing things like Roth conversions or other taxable things that are going to bump them up for a year or two relative to their normal consistent income. So again, if there's a way to be able to do that, we want to make sure to do that as intelligently as possible, where if you're right on that burden, say you're making $207,000 or $208,000, we don't want to push you up right above that, incur an extra $100 or $200 a month in Medicare premiums if there's an easy fix for something like that.
Good. Arrin, go ahead and cover the other items you wanted to cover on the income planning and tax planning side before we jump into the portfolio side.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So one of the major things that we talk about as far as the benefits of our distribution plan is the consistency with which it supplies income over time. So a lot of times people come in and they have the general idea that the way they're going to pull money from their portfolio is a little bit more when the market does better. Say, hey, S&P was up 20% last year. Let's spend a little bit more money, take that vacation we've been holding off on. Or, dang, market added 20 or 30% loss last year. We should probably cut back on our spending for a couple of years, let the portfolio bounce back and recover a little bit. The way that our distribution plans are designed does not have to be adjusted based off of whether the market had a good year or a poor year. We don't want the income that our clients are expecting to spend jumping either way up or way down, depending upon what the stock market does. And so the way that we're able to control that, in addition to the income streams that you have from an outside standpoint, is based off of how much you're withdrawing every year in addition to those other income sources. So say, for example, you retire, but you haven't yet started Social Security. And that's going to be, I don't know, between you and your spouse, let's say it's going to be 60 grand a year. So for the first 3 years before you start drawing Social Security, we're going to pull a little bit more income out of those retirement accounts to help maintain the consistency of your spending income over time, where there'll be a higher amount for those 3 years. When you start Social Security, we reduce the portfolio withdrawals because that new income stream has started where you're getting an extra $60K from Social Security. So you don't need as much from the portfolio withdrawals to maintain that same growth rate or that same spending rate over time. So same thing if you have a pension that you're getting paid out over 5 or 10 years and then that ends, we would bump up the income from the retirement accounts at that point in time to help offset the drop in the loss of that pension income. So there's a lot of ways that we can refine and tailor this to your specific circumstances to make sure that the income is as consistent as possible over time instead of bouncing all over the place depending upon a number of other factors.
One of the math-based principles that we have, Arrin, is that, and this is a math fact, when you draw income from a fluctuating account, you compromise gains when markets go up and you accentuate losses when markets go down. Now, we have a lot more in the next segment we want to talk about, but at the bottom of this segment, I just want to give a fun fact. Mark, this is new to our radio show. Are you ready for a fun fact?
On the edge of my seat, yes.
Okay. Over the span of 11 years, 115 people died in weightlifting accidents at the gym. Over the same 11 years, only one person died eating donuts. You've got to make good choices.
I like that one because I like donuts. So I think that's a good analogy. I like it. Here's the deal. We're talking about income. We're talking about retirement and areas that you really need to pay attention to. And if you don't really want to do it yourself, you want to go enjoy your retirement. You want a team to be there like a chief financial officer for you, like Decker Retirement Planning might be that team. Don't know, but you can always give them a call. It's 833-707-3030, 833-707-3030. Brian J. and Arrin Wray back with more of Safer Retirement Radio right after this.
In the world of taxes, knowledge is power. Let the team at Decker Retirement Planning empower you with the insights and strategies needed to navigate the complexities. Dial 833-707-3030 to stay ahead of the tax game.
Glad you're with us today for Safer Retirement Radio with Brian J. Decker and Arrin Wray of Decker Retirement Planning. Again, you can always learn more about Brian, Arrin, and the team by going to the website, deckerretirementplanning.com. Find out more about the company. Great information on the website. And, of course, you can find out more about Brian and Arrin and the team. But you can also find out about upcoming events. Maybe you want to attend an event that they've got going on, talking about a certain topic that you want to learn more about. deckerretirementplanning.com. And as I say every week on the show, there's also on that website, deckerretirementplanning.com, under the heading of Safer Retirement Education, there is a lot of information you can download. It's there for your information. Brian's book on retirement, The Decker Approach, 3 Principles of Retirement book, a checklist challenge, a sample income plan, 8 other things that are there as well. And it's all there for you to learn more about retirement, maybe answer some of the questions you've got. But if you want to call them, 833-707-3030, 833-707-3030. Brian, you and Arrin have been discussing income because that's really where retirement planning starts. It's not about the big number that you have saved and amassed from hard work and put away for retirement. It's about income. How much do you need month after month to be able to maintain your lifestyle for as long as you're going to live? And everybody's number would be different in that area as well. But it's really, now you're going to talk portfolio and how things are set up and risk and safety and all those challenges.
Yeah, let's dive into it. Now, at the end of last segment, Arrin, you were talking about how some people, a lot of people, in fact, most people decide where to pull their portfolio depending on which part of their portfolio is doing well. So talk about how we use a math-based principle of investing according to the purpose of the investment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This is one of my favorite parts of the distribution plan because it just makes sense. Where during your working years, you, for the most part, just have a big pot of money, right? It's like one big bucket. And the goal for that bucket of money is for you to see the number go up. You just want it to increase. You want that balance to go up every year. And you want that total to get bigger. Now, at the point in time that you transition into retirement, that big bucket of money needs to be divided out based off of the purpose that you have for those funds. So you didn't put all that hard work in, you didn't accumulate all those assets, you didn't forego spending that money just to accumulate it. There's a purpose in building that up. And most of the time, that purpose is for you to use it as income over your retirement years. So when you get that big pot of money and now you're transitioning into retirement, it is not a good idea to have that same approach, just in one big pot of money. And what most advisors do is that they will just say, hey, fill out this risk questionnaire, or they'll have a conversation with you to determine your risk tolerance. They'll say you're moderate aggressive or conservative or whatever their ranking scale is. And they will put you into some kind of a investment strategy, pie chart based investment strategy dictated by the specific risk tolerance you have. Now, that leaves a lot to be desired with these other categories that we've talked about, specifically income planning here, where your risk tolerance and how they invest that money doesn't help you at all in determining how much money you can pull out of that to spend every year. And so for us, we want to make sure that we put those funds into different categories, different investment vehicles, different investment strategies based off of the purpose and the responsibility that we assign for those funds. So typically there's 3 or 4 main categories in the plans that we put together. Number 1 is going to be emergency cash. We want you to have a small cash account set aside for unexpected expenses. There's going to be things like the car needs a repair, the water heater went out, whatever just happens to pop up. So that's going to be the first section. The second is going to be what we call the safe portion of the portfolio. These are principal guaranteed accounts, meaning that the principal that you invest in these vehicles is guaranteed from loss. These accounts cannot have a negative return. And then the third portion here is going to be our risk bucket or risk portfolio. And this bucket of money has the responsibility to provide higher growth over a longer period of time for funds that are going to be used later in retirement. Now, there's some other categories that are not necessarily applicable to everybody, but those 3 are going to be in pretty much every distribution plan that we create: the emergency cash, principal guaranteed accounts, and the risk funds. And the amount of money that goes into each of those is very specific. This isn't like, hey, you got $1 million. Let's put 100,000 here, 200,000 here, 250 here, and just kind of hope for the best. Again, we're a very math-based firm, and so we want to be very specific about how much money goes into each of those categories based off your plan. If you're somebody that is retired already, that's going to look a little different than somebody that's not planning on retiring for 5 years. And so we want to make sure that that's specific to you. But again, when we put those monies into those different vehicles, it's for a very specific reason, for providing for emergency cash, principal guaranteed accounts, or risk. And with those principal guaranteed accounts, this is the group of funds that are intended to provide protection and be used as the income source for you. So before I jump into that, Brian, any other thoughts on kind of the overview of the categories before we dive into what the function and kind of how that works for the income part?
Yeah, I just want to say there's 4 key points to drawing income properly from laddered principal guaranteed accounts. And Arrin, you did a great job describing for our radio listeners that if you're drawing income from laddered principal guaranteed accounts, number 1, you have peace of mind going into a horrible market environment like 2022, where the S&P is down 19%, NASDAQ was down 33%, bonds were down 20%, commodities were down across the board. And our clients not only didn't lose money, we were one of the few people in the United States as a retirement planning company that actually made money in 2022 because our clients were drawing their income from laddered principal guaranteed accounts. So peace of mind and consistency of income is critical point number one in drawing income from laddered principal guaranteed accounts. Bucket one, cash account. Bucket two is a 3-year CD. Bucket three is a 5-year CD. Bucket four is a 7-year account. Bucket five is a 10-year account. And then you've got the risk account. Now, the second key point in going through that is in the 20 years that you're drawing income from laddered principal guaranteed accounts, you have 20 years for the risk bucket to grow and replace what you've spent. If you start with 1.5 or 2.5 or whatever your starting amount is, in 20 years, the risk bucket has 20 years to replace what you spent. That's critical point number two. Point number three is when we use the estimates for portfolio growth, we are ultra conservative. Bucket one, we show on the plan growing at 1% when it's currently getting 5. Bucket two, we show at 3% when currently we're getting 5.5. Bucket three, we show at 3% when currently it's getting 5.7. Bucket 4 and 5, we show at 4. We're getting over twice that. The risk bucket, we're showing at 6, when since inception numbers for the managers that we use there are 3 times that. And Arrin, the reason that we're so ultra conservative on those estimates and those numbers is because when we meet with clients for their annual review, it's human nature that they want to hear the words, quote, "You're ahead of schedule in your retirement plan." That's key number one. Number two, we also want our clients to have high confidence that the income, their monthly income, is going to be at least that. It's probably going to be higher. And then, so we've gone through 3 of the 4. Number one, we're drawing income from laddered principal guaranteed accounts. Number two, we're drawing down the income, giving all the years to grow the risk bucket to replace what we've spent. We're ultra conservative. Number 3, on the estimates. And number 4, we're using compound interest to our advantage. We draw from the lowest earning accounts first, allowing the higher earning accounts to grow and compound more than offsetting what we've drawn from the other accounts. I love this about our distribution plan. After 5 and 10 years, we might start with 1.5 million. After 10 years, we might draw 600,000, but we've got more than what we started with because we're using compound interest to our advantage.
One other thing that I would like to add to that is that while we are very math-based, we want to focus on the numbers, we want to maximize the financial parts of the plan that we are putting into place. We recognize that the clients that we're working with are human beings, right? They have emotions, they have thoughts, they have other things that are important outside of just the numbers and the math that we help them put together. Now, one of the things that I really like about the way that our plans are structured is that it provides the peace of mind and the comfort that the clients need to be able to rely on us and go do what they want to do enjoyment-wise in retirement. They don't want to have to be worried about, hey, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Am I going to run out of money in 5 years? We're able to show them by the numbers with the math that we put in there, hey, here are the conservative projections. Here's what we're expecting. Just like you said, Brian, we're very, very conservative on those to make sure that we underpromise and overdeliver and not the other way around. And so, especially during the market time periods where the 2022s, the 2008s, time periods like that, if you are retired and now the market takes a hit like that and you're fully exposed, just think for a second about how that's going to make you feel emotionally. You're not going to be comfortable with having that big of a hit when you're 70, 80 years old. It just is very, very different than when you have your paycheck coming in, your wages coming in to supply for those living expenses, which is one of the major reasons why we put into place those principal guaranteed accounts and the other structures in our income plans to make sure that when your friends or family members or other people you know that are retired are calling their advisors or having a really hard time because their portfolio took a 40% hit, you're not going to be in that same boat. The way that we put these plans together does not allow you to take hits like that to your portfolio. And so it provides a lot of peace of mind and a lot of just comfort that you do have the correct strategy in place to make sure that not only from a numbers standpoint are you going to be okay, but from an emotional and peace of mind standpoint, you're also going to be okay.
So if you'd like to learn more, you want to sit down with Brian, Arrin, and the team at Decker Retirement and talk about how this pertains to you. What is your magic number, if you will? Everybody really has one, but how much income do you need? Is your portfolio set up the right way for you and your situation? Do you have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, and where you want? That's really what we'd all love to be able to do in retirement. But the idea is you need to have a plan to do that, to have the confidence that you're fine, the confidence that, yes, we can take that trip. Hey, we shouldn't buy the car this year, but in 2 years, it'll be really a good time for us to do it. That's where Brian and the team really come in. They're like your personal wealth coach, your chief financial officer to help guide you. 833-707-3030. No cost, no obligation to chat with them. They're here to help if they can. They don't know if they can help you until you reach out. And then if they can help you, do you want their help? Is it a good fit for them? Is it a good fit for you? That's really what it boils down to. 833-707-3030. Again, there's no cost for this. I still think it's one of the more important phone calls you might make. So 15, 30 minutes of your time for the next 20, 30 years of your life, that seems like a pretty good deal. 833-707-3030. We're talking about income. We're talking about your portfolio, safety, income, liquidity, growth. How are you going to do that? Do you understand? Brian and Arrin talking about more about that when we come back right here on Safer Retirement Radio.
As the weather warms, the open roads begin to beckon. If you've been getting the itch to travel, call Brian at 833-707-3030 to make sure you have enough saved to keep the winds of adventure blowing in retirement.
Have you noticed the market's roller coaster ride lately? Even a single day's dip can significantly impact your retirement. If the idea of shielding your nest egg from market volatility resonates with you, it's time to talk to the experts at Decker Retirement Planning. Call us now at 833-707-3030. Our unique approach aims to dial down the risk, keeping about 25 to 30% of your assets at risk, instead of the conventional 60-40 pie chart. At Decker Retirement Planning, we don't use a pie chart. We strive to offer you a detailed retirement income plan. It's about seeing the bigger picture, aligning your investments to your long-term goals, and making informed decisions. Whether you're new to retirement planning or already have a plan, we can help. Call Decker Retirement today to learn about the 6 things we do well for our clients that all financial advisors should be doing. Call 833-707-3030 today. That's 833-707-3030. Investment advisory and insurance services offered through Decker Retirement Planning, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
You're listening to Safer Retirement Radio. If you like what you hear on today's show or have questions, drop by DeckerRetirementPlanning.com or call 833-707-3030 to talk to Brian.
Welcome back to Safer Retirement Radio with Brian J. Decker and Arrin Wray of Decker Retirement Planning. Again, you can always learn more, find out more about the team, find out about what events are upcoming, things you want to know more about. DeckerRetirementPlanning.com, DeckerRetirementPlanning.com, 833-707-3030 if you have questions or concerns. Boy, I wonder if we've got enough to retire. I wonder when we can retire. I wonder if our money's going to last as long as we need it to. 833-707-3030. All right, final segment, Brian. You guys have already covered a lot of ground. How are you going to wrap this all up?
Being a fiduciary, we want to call out any competitor in retirement planning space that thinks that they can put a portfolio, a retirement plan together in 1 or 2 meetings. Typical of our retirement planning space. Meeting 1, how much you got? Meeting 2, how many annuities can we sell you? Arrin, why don't you take us through the 6 key parts in the meetings that we go through? What's covered in each of the meetings?
Let me kind of give you the 30,000 foot view here as far as the 6 things. Then we'll dive into kind of how that process progresses through the actual client meetings that we have. So the first one here is going to be actually having a plan. So again, we talked a little bit earlier about how the pie chart is not a plan. It leaves a lot to be desired, especially in retirement from all of those other aspects. And so we want to make sure that we actually have a plan laid out for you. And that is what we build into those income distribution plan structures. So The second one is going to be those tax minimization strategies. You've worked a long time for this money. You've put a lot of effort into building up those accounts, and you want to make sure to get as much value out of those as possible. So we have a number of different things that we can do, both specific and more generic to most of our clients from a tax strategy standpoint. Risk reduction is number 3. Again, we want to make sure that when you transition from your working years into your retirement years, you adjust that level of risk appropriately. It's not appropriate to have 90, 100% of your total assets at risk in the market anymore when you stop working. That's what leaves you open to those 30, 40% corrections that are going to derail your retirement years, force you to have to go back to work, sell your house. Just make some of those not so fun financial decisions. Number 4 is going to be portfolio optimization. This kind of circles back to some of the comments we made earlier about diversifying based off the purpose for the funds, where we have those emergency cash funds, principal guaranteed accounts, the risk portfolio, instead of just one big pot of money. 5th is income optimization. Again, we're a very math-based firm. We want to make sure that you are maximizing your spending while being conservative and allowing that money to last for the remainder of your life. And then number 6 is what we call fee minimization. We want to make sure that the value that we are providing is exceeding the fee that you are paying us. So our fee structure is a little bit different than most advisors, and we can walk through how that works in relation to those specific income distribution plans.
But when it comes to fees, let's tell our radio listeners, typical fee is to charge 1% on the entire portfolio, the pie chart. And our clients, we only charge a management fee on the risk portion of the money, which is usually about 25%. So 25% with our fee, clients are saving about 70% typically in fees. And when it comes to risk reduction, there's 3 parts to that. One is quantitatively lowering their risk from, a 60-40, 70-30 portfolio, which I think is insane for people over 65 to have 60 or 70% of their portfolio in the stock market. We quantitatively reduce that to about 25%. Second, we eliminate interest rate risk because our clients don't have any bond funds, shouldn't have any bond funds. Anyone who has bond funds in a rising interest rate environment has lost 35% in the last 4 years. And third, strategically, we lower their risk because on the two-sided strategy that we use, when markets go up, we're using momentum models that are cherry picking the best parts of the market as the market goes up. That's the definition of how momentum models work. And when the market's going down, meaning trading below the 200-day moving average, when the market's in a downtrend, we shift, just like in the NFL, we have an offense and a defense. We shift the managers, so we specify and have defensive managers, momentum models that are able to buy what is going up in down markets. So in 2008, it was just treasury bonds. Treasury bonds were up 22%. But in 2000, 01, and 02, when people lost 50% of their portfolio in the S&P, 70% if you own technology stocks, during that 3-year period, momentum strategies had you in stocks going up during that 3-year period, which was real estate, gold, silver, energy, pharmaceuticals, biotech, healthcare. All those stocks made double digits each year for 3 years. So instead of losing 50%, 70%, you would have made good money during those 3 years. So as fiduciaries, we are lowering clients' risk dramatically. I just wanted to chime in on that. Arrin, in the few minutes that we have left, talk about the 6 meetings that we have to put a retirement plan together.
Yep. So the first meeting that we have with clients is heavily focused on an evaluation to make sure that it's a good fit between what we do, services that we offer, and then the specific client situation. So we really dive into everything that's going to be applicable for you. So we'll talk about your assets, your income streams, where you're at with work. Are you expecting an inheritance? Does one spouse or the other have health issues that you're worried about? What are you looking at for legacy planning or for children or charity? We go through a number of different topics, a number of different scenarios to make sure that we get a really good foundation to work off as we start this planning process with you. So in that first meeting as well, we'll gather the information that we need to be able to build out your first version of those income distribution plans. And then we'll talk a little bit about why we approach things the way that we do. So we mentioned earlier in the show that the strategy and the vehicles that you've used to get you to where you are now financially are not the same ones that you need moving forward. So we want to show you some of the biggest problems that we see people run into as they're moving into their retirement years, how we solve those, and then walk you through the mechanics and how those income distribution plans actually function. So that's typically what's engaged in the first meeting. The second meeting is where we get into your first version of that income distribution plan. So there's usually a few documents that we talk about here. Number one, we want to talk a little bit about optimizing your Social Security. So we will go through what's called our Social Security optimization report, show you the strategy that provides you the highest benefit there, especially if you're married. There's a lot of different things to consider around when you and your spouse take those Social Security income streams. We want to make sure that you're maximizing the value there. We also get into your first version of that income distribution plan. So we want you to see your real numbers, how that looks with your income streams, your assets. And this planning process is a very iterative one. The first version that we look at is not going to be the final one. We want to see what things you like, what you don't like, what adjustments you want made, any alternative scenarios you want to take a look at, really to help you understand how our plan can be tailored to your specific situation and what that would look like with your real numbers. So those are the things that we go through on the second meeting. The third one is where we get into kind of hammering the plan. We call this our stress test. So we've done this for a long time. We're retirement planning specialists, and we've seen different scenarios that have come up that you want to make sure to do some pre-planning for. So this typically goes through a number of different categories. This is where we start diving more heavily into the tax strategies, some of the estate planning strategies, talk a little bit about insurance planning, long-term care planning, life insurance, other things that you want to make sure you have in place. What happens if one spouse dies way earlier than the other one? Are you going to continue to be okay from an income standpoint? We kind of run through a number of different scenarios and items to make sure that these are talked about and a plan is put in place now versus this being a shock for you later. And you're like, oh, I'm kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. We want to make sure, again, that we've done some pre-planning while going through that stress test meeting in our third meeting together. Number 4 is where we get into what we call our principal guaranteed account discussion. So this is going through all of the options for, and then our recommendations for those safe accounts, those principal guaranteed accounts that have the job of providing protection for your funds and will also be used as the income source. So this is where you get a lot of the detail around how those work, the real returns on those, how we're going to use those within your plan through that laddered principal guaranteed approach. Gives you a lot of information around those specific investment vehicles. And then the 5th one, this is where we get into walking through how your plan is going to be funded. So we'll talk about the current accounts that you have, what we're going to transfer over, how we're going to allocate those funds within the different risk, emergency cash, and principal guaranteed accounts that we have. We finalize the risk allocation that you want, that focus on the higher growth, longer term investment there to make sure that we can replenish that bucket of money for use as income later on in your plan and kind of round out some of the finalized pieces of that plan there. And then the 6th meeting is where we go through our estate planning discussion. So we want to focus on your will, living will, power of attorney, and trust documents. Really want to make sure that you are set up for success, that your beneficiaries are set up for success when one of you and or both of you pass away, to make sure that yours isn't one of those situations where your kids or other beneficiaries never talk to each other after they get mom and dad's assets distributed. So we want to make sure that those things are taken care of beforehand and you have all of those situations pre-planned for, to make sure that you're not just putting a financial plan together, you're making sure that those assets are going to be transitioned accordingly as well.
And if you'd like to go through that process with the team at Decker Retirement Planning, all you have to do is give them a call, 833-707-3030. Income, your portfolio setup, is it diversified the right way? Are you on the right track? What about taxes? What about healthcare? What about estate planning? Social Security decisions, Medicare decisions. There's a lot of things. It'd be nice to have your own personal wealth coach to help guide you along the way. Brian J. and Arrin Wray can certainly be there on your side if it makes sense for both of you. 833-707-3030. Again, no cost for this whatsoever. 833-707-3030. Brian and Arrin, appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll do it again next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Security and insurance services offered by Decker Retirement Planning, a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Decker Retirement Planning is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Decker Retirement Planning. This radio show is a paid placement.